Good morning and welcome to today's House debate in the 1st Middlesex District. My name is Tom Zupa. I'm Assistant Managing Editor at the Lowell Sun, and I'm the moderator for today's debate. We have 3 candidates running for the seat, the Democratic nomination in the 1st Middlesex District, which includes the towns of Ayer, Dunstable, Groton, Pepperell, and Townsend. If you're watching this live, we'll have a debate at 2 p.m. on Wednesday between the Republican candidates for the same seat. Also, if you live in Groton and Dunstable, you should know that there's a debate Thursday night in Westford for the 1st Middlesex Senate District between Chris Doherty and Eileen Donahue. It's at 7 o'clock at Neshoba Technical High School, and all are welcome to attend. If you've missed any portion of this, or if you have to leave early, this debate will remain on lowellsun.com at lowellsun.com/elections. Okay. Let me introduce the candidates alphabetically. First, Jane Morse from Groton. Jane is a writer, works at Donald's. Second, Jesse Wright of Ayer, who's CEO of Bay State Biofuels and an assistant professor of chemistry at Massachusetts Maritime Academy. And finally, Tony Savalauskas, who's treasurer of the Pepperell VFW and formerly a teacher at the Spear School for Autistic Children and the Fernald School. These candidates are running for the seat in next Tuesday's primary election, September 14th. The winner will go on to the general election facing the Republican nominee on November 2nd. Thanks for joining us. We'll overcome our technical difficulties. So the format for the debate today will be, I'll ask a question, and the person I direct the question to will have 90 seconds to answer. Then each candidate will have, other candidate will have 60 seconds to respond, and I'll go back to the original question for another 30 seconds to rebut anything that might be said. At that point, as moderator, I can throw this open to maybe something a little more free-flowing than that. Finally, you each have 2 minutes to look into the camera and tell us why why the voters of the 1st Middlesex District should vote for you next week. So I'm happy to have everybody here, and we'll start with you, Ms. Morris. You're running for the office of State Representative. Is representing this district a full-time job, full-time pay?
Yes, it is. And for me, I believe that my constituents deserve to have a full-time representative representing them in Boston. And when I win, I plan to go to work full-time for them.
That was much less than 2 minutes.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the problems that are facing our nation and our state and our towns are so substantial that it's best to have people that are addressing them on a full-time basis, that are looking into how are we going to get people employed? How are we going to fix our education system? How are we going to reduce our environmental footprint? How are we going to solve the energy problems that are going to be coming at us like a freight train just over the next couple of years? So we need somebody, not just from this district, but from all of our districts, to be looking at these problems and devoting their full time and their full attention to making sure that we are putting our families back to work while helping the economy, while creating jobs, while supporting green industry and moving forward in that direction. So yeah, I do believe that it's a full-time job and a full day's work.
Savalauskas.
Yes, it is a full-time job. It's black and white to me. If it's not explicit, I'm sure it's implicit in the state constitution that legislators are expected to be on the job and devote all their energies to that specific job, the state's business, and in my case, 1st Middlesex business.
Ms. Morris, anything to add?
No, I have been, I've worked as an aide to Representative Hargraves, and I have seen, I've been inside, and I know how demanding the pressures are. We are in a time of unprecedented challenge, so to speak, and I do think that it's full-time, and not only do I think it's a full-time job, I am planning to work and devote my life to that. I don't have any other distractions. I'm not running a business, and my children are grown, so it's a great time in my life to take this on.
Mr. Savalauskas, you said that it's constitutional that the legislature be a full-time job. Other states seem to work just fine with a part-time legislature, such as New Hampshire. Should there be a change? I mean, could you work with a part-time legislature? What's that here?
Well, I don't want to copy other states. Massachusetts is unique, and our population is unique. There are a lot of things that Massachusetts is that other states are not. And it is a full-time job because I don't just see myself on Beacon Hill full-time. I see myself in the district in our 5 towns. 5 towns, over 40,000 people, that's full-time to me.
Mr. Reich?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, there's a lot that I disagree with Bob Hargreaves on in terms of issues and where he stood, but one of the things that he did well, that voters keep telling me that he's done exceptionally well, is to be a presence in the district, to get to know the families that are there, to work for them, to be a liaison between his office and the different state groups and the different offices that are meant to go help the people and our residents in the community. So I think that it makes sense that we have this be a full-time job, because helping families, especially in these economic times where it's so difficult and so troubling, it's a full-time gig. You know, our families are really hurting. I met one family that in Townsend where we have seven members, 2 of whom were seniors. The rest of them were between the ages of 23 and 56, and the 2 seniors were living off of Social Security, and everybody else was unemployed. We need somebody that's going to be able to go help get that family back to work, to help make them feel whole, to give them a better chance than what they have right now. And I don't think that you can just do that, you know, for a couple hours during budgeting season. That's a full-time job.
Ms. Morse?
Well, they call the legislature the High Court, and there's a reason for that, and that's because you do a lot more than draft legislation. You're really doing a lot of constituent services. People come to you with all manner of challenges. I had family come to me as a last resort when I was working for Bob. Their father had run up $11,000 in pay-per-view movies with Charter, and I was able to cut through the red tape. They weren't able to contact Charter, the people who could make those decisions to do something about it. And so you get all manner of things. You never know from day to day. And it's kind of, you're sitting up here and you have the ability to untie some of that red tape, and it's very satisfying. And it is a full-time job.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Mr. Reich. You're all Democrats. What's the biggest difference between you and your opponents?
I believe it's vision. When I think of what we need to do for our district, I have a simple phrase that I keep in the back of my head. Come for the schools, stay for the jobs, and retire with peace of mind. That's what we have to create for this district. That's what we need our families and our home and our community to be. Now, I have a plan of how we're going to get there. I think ultimately what we have to do is recognize that the 4 biggest challenges that we face are energy, environment, education, and employment. And we have to make sure that, I call them the 4 E's, that we address those 4 E's to put our families back to work. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to invest in clean energy in our community. We have all the smart people, we have capital, we have the industrial land, we have the rail infrastructure, we have everything we need, but what we don't have is leadership to help guide us there. And if we can invest in clean energy, we're going to put families back to work. And as we put families back to work in the clean energy sector, we're going to reduce our environmental footprint, not only for Massachusetts, but as we export these technologies, it's going to be to the betterment of all of us. Also, what's going to end up happening is that as we're addressing our energy needs through these renewable technologies, as we're putting people back to work, as we're reducing our environmental footprint, we're also going to create revenue through the jobs. And with that revenue, we can make sure that our schools are properly funded. Already we're seeing in Groton, Dunstable, and in other schools in our community, class sizes are creeping up to 30 students, and they're going to go even higher. I've been a teacher before at Lawrence High School, at Natick High School, and I'm currently a professor of chemistry, and I can tell you that you can't teach, you can't reach 42 kids in a classroom. And so if we keep seeing a bigger line go up, it's going to be problematic. So we need to fix that, get to work, and I think that vision is what separates me from both Jane and Tony.
Mrs. Salaskis.
What separates me is my focus on the here and now, which is where everybody's living in this district. With unemployment where it is, from a high of 9.8%, I believe, in Air, down to 6.3% in Dunstable, people are hurting, and even people who have jobs are underemployed. They're working at Burger King, flipping burgers, just trying to make ends meet. Mr. Reich mentions alternative energy. Well, alternative energy is wonderful if you have money. I can't afford a brand new Chevy Volt, for instance, at $41,000. Neither can most people in my district. We can't afford, even with the governor's solar initiative, to put solar panels on our house. We just don't have the cash to lay out for that sort of payback. I'd love to have solar. I'd love to have a Chevy Volt. I'd love all these things, but they're in the tomorrow. Today we need jobs and well-paying jobs, not just Burger King or temporary, for instance, movie industry jobs. Just a pet peeve of mine, that tax credit for motion picture production. It's ridiculous. For the legislature to have gone over the governor's head from $50 million to $125 million for temporary jobs, low-paying jobs that don't stay in the state. Most of the money, most of the production companies bring their technical people with them. We employ a few carpenters and a few electricians for a few months, and they walk away with $125 million.
Ms. Morris.
Well, I think that I differentiate myself. First, I'm a woman, and I have a vision also, and that is, I think that we need to build our local industrial base. We need to start with introducing homegrown industry. We need to help we need to help small businesses who are local thrive, and we need to counteract some of the devastation that's been wreaked by a global economy. One of the problems with the global economy is when you buy something, say, on the internet, all that money, none of the money comes back to the local area. When you're buying local, the community is keeping about 45 cents on the dollar when people spend money. That is why I am championing the creation of a new agriculture using technology that allows farmers to grow their crops year-round and supply local areas. There have been studies showing that locally grown produce, if it goes into the national distribution network, travels an average of about 2,000 miles before it gets to the plate. If it's locally grown and traded locally, the number is about 90 miles. So there's a lot of things we can do.
Mr. Wright, get the last word on this.
Well, it's not just about my vision, and it's not just about the plan. It's about having the experience and the skills necessary to make this happen. You know, I work for BASF, which is the world's largest chemical company. I own my own business. I understand what it takes to be a small business owner, the regulatory certainty that we need. Having worked in the municipal government as a vice chair of the Air Finance Committee and on the Air Energy Committee, I think that I understand what it takes to put together the kinds of partnerships between business and government to help our local businesses thrive, so that we can help our downtowns and help industry and help attract industry to our districts, so that we can create the jobs and put families back to work and do it in such a way that we're supporting clean energy.
We're on the jobs train, so let's continue with this question. Mr. Sullivan, I'll ask you a little first. You mentioned the unemployment rate in your district. I actually did the numbers yesterday. It's about 8% across the district, but it's going up. If you were elected, what's your personal job stimulus plan for the state?
Well, first let me say that my figures come from Mass Budget and Policy Center, so that's perhaps where our differences come from.
We're not off much, but
yeah,
it's about 8%.
But 1% that's a lot of people. One person is a lot of people out of work. So, jobs creation was your question?
Yes, job stimulus.
Job stimulus. Well, I think we're going about it in the wrong way with tax incentives. I think encouraging companies to hire people by giving them, say for instance, a $2,500 tax credit isn't going to create a job. Demand creates jobs. When the global recession and the national recession start back, when the economy improves is when jobs will be created, because politicians, tax credits don't create jobs. Demand creates jobs. The free market creates jobs. If we're just kidding ourselves if we think we throw money at a company and they're going to hire somebody, even an entry-level employee, for $35,000 a year just because we give them $3,000. they're going to have a net loss. They need demand for their products and services. That's what will create the jobs, and that comes with time and the economy. As far as the stimulus goes, we've kind of hamstrung ourselves with our capital budget. Our capital budget is all tied up with projects that are already committed. We don't have the ability to say, let's start some, increase the governor's accelerated bridge program. We can't fund that. Our funding this year, we spent $300 million on a bond issue just to pay this year's bills. We could have used that $300 million to employ people. Outstanding tax debt. In Massachusetts, there are some 36,000 small businesses that owe the state $400 million. We could create quite a few jobs with that $400 million. There was an amnesty program running from April through the end of May, I believe. I haven't seen any results, so I don't think it went that well. But $400 million is owed to the state.
Ms. Morris.
Well, when you're talking about an 8% unemployment rate, it's actually much higher than that. It is because anyone who's earning, I think it's $25 a week or more, is not considered unemployed. So we've got a huge issue. I think everyone out there who sits down and thinks about it either has a family member out of work, a best friend out of work, a child out of work, etc. Our children or our young people are graduating from college without jobs. Older people, I'm 61 years old, I know what I'm talking about. Older people are finding it very difficult to get jobs. They're told that they're overqualified in many cases. The ageism is rampant. It's like we're on a jobs lottery. That is why I think it's really, really important to build a local economy that not only employs local people, but gives them the means to support their families and take pride in their work and nourish the community.
Mr. Wright.
Yeah, I think what we really need to focus on is clean energy. If we want to put people back to work and make sure that we're set up for the long term, we have to focus on clean energy. As the recovery comes back into full mode, as we see that what we're going to end up seeing is the United States, Russia, Brazil, China, Indonesia, these countries are going to be purchasing a lot more fossil fuels, and we're going to see our energy prices skyrocket. So if we're worried about the cost of energy now and not having enough money now, imagine what it's going to be like when all of our homeowners have to pay 3 or 4 times as much to go get the same amount of energy to heat our homes, to drive our cars, to power the tools and equipment in our houses and our businesses. So we gotta focus on that now. And how I think we can do that is that the state and the businesses can form partnerships. I believe, and I've been speaking to some of the presidents of our local banks, what we can do is set up guaranteed loans provided by the state to go through our local banks, to go work with our municipalities, to work with our consumers and our business owners to make sure that we can do projects to put solar panels on their roofs, geothermal applications in our schools, so that we can get projects going immediately and save energy at the same time.
Mr. Sadalauskas, the last word.
Stimulating the economy takes more than just throwing money at our problems. We have some fundamental problems, starting with the size of state government. We need to consolidate more. I applaud the governor's efforts in consolidating transportation into MassDOT, Department of Transportation, and elsewhere with information technology, sharing the functions across departments. But we have some 600 agencies, and the state just can't be one of the largest employers in the state. It's ridiculous. We need private enterprise employing people, and that's going to require demand in the marketplace. Again, back to demand in the marketplace. If the marketplace isn't ready, it's not going to spend money. Consumers need just as much attention as businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Back down the other end of the table again. We'll start a question from Ms. Morris. What we hear a lot about on the campaign trail is wasteful spending, consolidation, and every dollar the state spends goes to some program or some salary or some constituency. How, if you're elected, are you going to determine what's wasteful and what isn't? What's your criteria?
Well, I think you have to look at how many people all that spending is supporting, and what it's doing for the community. Is it making the community a richer place, a resource? Is it giving people stability? Is it eroding the strength of people's desire to go out and strive? And many times the rhetoric is thrown around: slash the budget, get rid of wasteful spending, get rid of this, get rid of that. But if you really look at what happens when you do that, many times it's teachers are out of work, firefighters are out of work, policemen are out of work, you know, people are losing their homes, and all for, it's very short-sighted policy. I think we need to make sure that the money we're spending is not degrading our land or impoverishing our people, but promoting a way of life that is in harmony with our highest ideals.
Mr. Wright, 60 seconds, please.
Yeah, wasteful spending isn't my term. I mean, Massachusetts, not this past month, but the month before, brought in 19,000 jobs. What the state is doing is actually working. We're moving in the right direction. And while we need to help make sure that that translates to our district better than we have done, we're moving in the right way, and now's not the time to go slash our budgets. You know, when we talk about where does the money go, about half of our money goes to the mass health program. That's where a good portion of the operating budget goes. And honestly, I think that when you invest in making sure that people stay healthy so that they can continue contributing to the economy, I think that's a good thing. And when you provide preventative care, it prevents you from having to pay for longer term or even more costly care. I have a lot of friends that are doctors now that tell me that they see patients all the time that they could have come in for a doctor's visit and some penicillin, and now they have to go get an organ removed at $70,000 when it would have cost them, I don't know, $50 for the doctor's visit and the medicine. So we have to. I don't believe there's a ton of wasteful spending, and I don't think that money spent on our firefighters, our teachers, and building the roads and putting in place the infrastructure so that we can do business is a waste. We gotta support that to help us stay on the move.
Mr. Santalaskas.
I would start with the Department of Open Government. You've probably all heard of the new open meeting law in Massachusetts. We created a new department to go along with that, and it's this kind of thing that it needs to be carefully looked at. I wouldn't call the spending wasteful, but it could be, in my mind, it's unnecessary. We can combine functions. There's no guarantee that having 50 people do the same thing is going to do it any better than 25 people. And I don't mean some sort of cataclysmic, axe-wielding, budget-cutting decimation of state agencies. I think a careful, slow, well-thought-out program, like, again, the governor did and the legislature did with the Department of Transportation. I think everyone agrees that that's quite a success for the governor and the legislature, something they should be very proud of. Something I disagree with is economic development incentive program. A company only has to produce 50% of the jobs that they promise in order to retain those incentives. That's ridiculous. Somebody promises 100 jobs, delivers 50, and we give them the same amount of money as somebody that delivers 100. Now that was reformed, that department was reformed this year, but it needs further reformation. It's just too much money for something that would happen anyway. For example, IBM has bought 13 Massachusetts companies since 2003. IBM is not foolish with their money.
Thank you. Ms. Morris.
Yes. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Well, just this question of wasteful spending and where your priorities would be.
Oh, sure.
You get 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
To wrap up.
Thank you. I think that, again, we need to spend our money on education. We need to spend our money on services that benefit the most people. I have a newspaper background, and when I'm in the state legislature, I plan to look at things the same way I would do if I were putting together a front page of a newspaper. What benefits the most people? And if it bleeds, it leads. But, you know, you really have to look at those issues that benefit the most people. And again, local economies are the way to go, I think.
Okay, next question from Mr.
Can I add one,
Sure,
one more quick thought to that? You know, when families in our district are aging and we have more and more health care problems, now is not the time to be cutting our health care budgets and slashing our services. We don't want to be waiting longer periods to get an ambulance to our towns. We don't want to wait longer to put a fire out. You know, if one fire goes unresponded in any of our towns, what business is going to move in? You know, we have to make sure that the services are there to support the rest of the economy that's built around it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll give you another 30 seconds, Mrs. Saveloskis, if you'd like.
Yeah, the healthcare budget is enormous, and it's sucking up a lot of jobs, unnecessary jobs. Now, there's been this talk of this plan design. Plan design is just code for passing on the cost of healthcare increases to working people. Instead of going after the origin of the cost increases, which is doctors or hospitals or whatever service providers there are, that's where the cost increases come from. That's what's killing us. That's what we need to go after. Not the consumers, not the teachers who if their plans get designed, it'll be like my plan was designed. My wife gets health insurance through the state. Well, our plan was redesigned this year, and we have an additional $750 in deductibles this year. Is that what we want to do for our working people? I don't think so. We want to go after doctors, hospitals, and the cost originators, where the prices increases are coming from. Thank you.
Okay. Let's jump off on this. Ms. Morris, talk a little bit about Group Insurance Commission. Some of these communities, as you know, are really sort of crushed with that's really the budget buster in these town budgets. And some of them are trying home rule petitions to get into the State Group Insurance Commission. There's some talk at the state level of sort of imposing it by act of the legislature. Let me ask all three of you, how do you feel about the state coming in and trying to provide a lower cost of service to the communities?
I think it's absolutely necessary. My ex-husband had a stroke when he was 48 years old. He's in a nursing home today. He's 60 years old. He was totally felled, again, because he was not able to get adequate health care. So if his high blood pressure had been under good management, this never would have happened. So I know firsthand how important it is. How much does that cost society? How much does that cost him as an individual and his family? So I know firsthand about health care and how absolutely important it is for everyone to have access to adequate health care. I happen to believe that we need to get the profit motive out of the practice of medicine. So oftentimes we hear about drug interactions. People are drug sops. They're working for the drug industries. They're over-medicated because somebody's making a buck. I really think that we need to look at how we're vending our services and make sure that they're going towards making our people healthier and promoting healthy health habits in our...
But should the state mandate that municipal employees all take the state plan? I guess that's where my question is going.
Yeah, I think they should. Yeah,
Mr.
I would
Wright.
say yes.
Should the state mandate that? I don't know. It's not an incredibly simple question. You know, we want to respect the abilities of the towns to make decisions for themselves. If they have money, then they want to have a better plan. They should have the ability to do that. But ultimately, the goal of trying to make our healthcare system more affordable, not only for the public employees that rely on the system, but for everybody, is of incredibly high importance. So we have to work to figure out ways to reduce our costs, to look at what are the major drivers, the obesity, diabetes, what can we in the state do to help prevent that at an early stage, catch it, nip it in the bud before it saps money away from our healthcare system. So should it be mandated? I'm going to punt on that. I'm not positive right now, so I want to look into that more.
You sounded fairly positive.
No, absolutely not. Because you're not controlling costs. You're passing costs along to working people. If you want to control costs, common sense is that you control costs at the source. That's the best place. That's where the increases are coming from. Why is it all right for x-rays to cost twice as much this year as they did last year? Explain it to me. Don't just go and make teachers pay another $750 in their family deductibles, or firefighters another $750 in their deductibles, as my family has to, because we're part of the state plan. Mandating that is just wrong in my mind. Go after the origin of the cost increase.
Let's, I'm sorry, go ahead. You wanna add
Yes,
something?
if I could just put in my 30 seconds of 2 cents. Thank you. The reason I said yes is because I'm afraid that if the communities are given the option to engineer their own plans, they're going to start cutting corners, and the employees, the town municipal employees, are not going to be adequately covered. And I used to work in insurance, and I happen to know that the larger the insurance pool, the better spread of risk there is, the better prices. So when municipalities start all doing their own negotiations, I think that it sounds good that they're going to be keeping the price down, but in practice, I think that they're going to get less bang for their buck.
Part of the problem is that this isn't super simple, because you have union contracts. All of our towns are unionized. We have so many bodies that are have 3-year contracts that don't overlap. To just immediately come out and say this is what the state's going to do, everybody's going to do that. It could work out well if the state plan is well designed and it makes sure that we're maintaining a minimum standard. But like Tony says, if the goal of mandating it is to go shift more of the cost burden onto all the employees, I don't think that's right. We have to figure out ways of, some hospitals are charging, I guess mammograms are an interesting study. Some hospitals are charging $50 to $75 per mammogram, others are charging $550. So how come one hospital can charge so little and one has to charge so much? We have to look at making sure that our money is going to the hospitals that provide quality care but also affordable care, and that we shouldn't be subsidizing, any service that costs 10 times as much as another business down the street.
I agree completely.
Okay.
Nothing to add.
Okay, excellent. We're going to change gears a little here. One of the big issues in the legislature last year was casino gambling. We'll start with you, Mr. Reich. If you're elected, what will you do to jumpstart the process?
Well, that's assuming that I'm in favor, which I am.
Okay.
I mean, I think that we already have the problems associated with gambling as it is right now. We have, because we're so close to some of these other states that allow for gambling, we have the problems that are associated with addiction, but we have none of the revenues coming in. Additionally, at the same time, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers has 1,600 people that are currently unemployed out of the 6,000 that are there within that union. I mean, that's over 25%. And when you look into construction groups, when you look into so many common folks that are building literally building the buildings and putting in their time, they're unemployed. So I don't think now is one of these great times where we can turn up our nose and say gambling's totally wrong for us. I'm a chemist by nature, so let's go try an experiment. Let's go, if people are worried about 3 casinos and racinos, well, why don't we just start with 1? Let's put out 1 license, let's allow it to be built. Does it devastate our economy? Does it ruin our state? Then we can take away the 1 license, and and we can learn. But at the same time, I think that it's not going to be the end-all be-all for Massachusetts. It's going to attract businesses to our area. It's going to attract tourists to our area. I think it can be good not only economically, but we can deal with the social problems caused by this, and we can mitigate that and handle that. So I'd say let's put our families back to work and let's build at least 1 casino, just get it started.
Mr. Santalaskas.
For me, it's a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier of demand, marketplace demand. Our VFW post, 2 or 3 times a month, our parking lot is full at 6 o'clock in the morning with one group or another that's chartered a bus to go out of state and spend their Massachusetts dollars. The demand is there. It's a tragedy that some deal wasn't reached between the Speaker of the House and the Governor. It just boggles my mind that that didn't happen. 'Cause like I said, the demand is there. The casinos will be full. I support all three. My problem with the racinos was the no-bid contract aspect of it. I don't have a problem if there's 2 or 10. It's the no-bid contract. There were 2 racetracks that wanted licenses for slots and 2 licenses available. That does not benefit the state in any way, and it has to benefit the state. So I would work hard with the Speaker to find a way, and the Governor to find a way to reach some sort of compromise and not let this go another legislative session without building something, without getting something done. The demand is there.
Very good. Ms. Morris.
Well, those buses and cars that are parked in VFW parking lot are going off to Rhode Island and Connecticut and spending about $1 billion, and that's B as in boy, $1 billion a year. That's why I think we do need to build our own casinos and recoup some of that expense, some of that money that people are spending elsewhere. I have, though, meanwhile, yes, it will create jobs. It certainly will put some construction people back to work temporarily. I'll get back to building a sustainable economic base that is not based on the roulette wheel of chance. And we've got an awful lot of our economy that is just that roulette wheel. I can't talk. Roulette wheel. Thank you.
Mr. Wright, 30 seconds.
We got to put our families back to work, and I think that you know, if we lived in a state where we were 500 miles away from another casino, I'd say no, let's not do this. Let's keep Massachusetts the way it is. We don't want to deal with the social problems that are caused by gambling, and that we're not going to gamble our way out of the state budgetary problems that we have. But that being said, we live, you know, 60 minutes away from multiple casinos that are gigantic revenue-building, tourist-attracting facilities that take money from our state and put it into others. And because they're already here, because they're already there, because they've been built, because they take our dollars, because we deal with the social consequences caused by them already, that helps inform my decision to say, okay, I don't think that casinos are a bad idea. The revenue that they bring in can be good, and the jobs that they create can be a boon for our townspeople. You know, and we can do other things to make sure that we're creating jobs, like limiting 4 players to a blackjack table. Simple things to make job creation the focus of putting the casino in place.
Okay, we're going to move on from that. We're going to do a quick sort of lightning round on the 3 ballot questions. We'll start with Mr. Savalaskis. Question 1, repealing the state sales tax on alcohol. What's your view on that?
I'll start by saying I've gotten mixed reviews from liquor store owners. 2 out of 3 last week that I spoke to said it didn't make any difference in their sales whatsoever. The 3rd one was adamant that it was crushing it. So I guess it depends on their customer base. Now our district borders New Hampshire, so it can be particularly crushing to a liquor store. The one in Pepperell, the owner told me point blank, no difference. It's really not affecting me. She hadn't noticed. Another owner in a different town had the opposite take. It's crushing me, it's killing me. I can't compete with New Hampshire. They just go across the border. So my personal view is on the regressivity of the tax itself. That tax on liquor is going to hit working people first, and I oppose it on that basis. It should be phased out, perhaps in the way that they're phasing out the corporate excise tax, you know, maybe a quarter, 3/4 of a point a year over several years, so that we don't have a shock to the revenue stream. But personally, I'm against it, and I would see it phased out over time.
Ms. Morris.
Well, when I talked to liquor store owners, I had the same reaction as Tony. Some of them say it hasn't had any effect. Others say that it has. When you look at the revenues from the state again, it doesn't appear that it has had any effect whatsoever on sales. Statewide, of course, we're right up here by the border, so you know, that's another thing. But I support the liquor tax, and I'll tell you why. Alcohol is, drinking alcohol, we all, you know, people who drink, most people do it responsibly, some do not. It costs us a huge amount of money, alcohol abuse does, and I think that it's fair to tax it. I mean, people have, it's not an essential, it's not food, it's not essential to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, although some people would argue that. So I'm all for the tax on liquor.
Mr. Wright.
I think getting rid of the taxes that we have now, some have proposed going as far down as 3%, reducing the sales tax down to 3%. That would cut $2.5 billion out of our state budget. That's just shy of 10%. That is nothing short of absolutely reckless. Again, it goes back to, we need to have firefighters that are going to be there to respond to fires if we want to have businesses in our community. We need to have ambulances that are going to get there not 10 minutes later, but 2 minutes after you've had a heart attack, so that we can save the people that have helped build our communities. We have to make sure that our education system is top-notch in the district, that we have a student-to-teacher ratio that can lead to making sure that we inspire a level of learning, to make sure that we have, our children have the 21st century skills that they need for the jobs of the future. And those sorts of things aren't going to happen if we slash our budget drastically. We're coming out of the woods. Massachusetts is creating jobs. We're actually one of the top states to be coming out of this. This isn't the time to go slash our budget, get rid of all the services that are helping to push our economy and our businesses forward. Now's the time to support them.
We sort of leap from question 1 to question 3, so I'll leap off from there. Question 3 would reduce the state sales tax to 3%. I think the number that you quoted, it was talked about in the governor's debate last night. $2.5 billion reduction in the state budget. Mr. Santalaskis.
It would be an absolute disaster for that to have to happen this January if that passes. We're going to be laying off teachers, police officers, and firefighters. I don't know where the revenue is going to come from. If that passes, it doesn't make sense to me. It's much too drastic a cut. If people sincerely believe that that tax needs to go down, it needs to go down slowly, responsibly, not as if it were some sort of... I've seen people claim that it's going to create jobs. When? In 10, 15 years? It's just crazy for that to be on the ballot this January. Our revenue stream is fragile enough as it is. We're reducing corporate income taxes as we speak. Last year, 09, it was 9.5. This year, 8.75. Next year, 8.25. The year after that, 8.00. We're cutting our revenue already. If we go down to 3% instantly, it's going to be a catastrophic shock to the Massachusetts economy, and it's going to cause a lot of unnecessary pain and suffering. I wish the people who organize those ballot initiatives would give that some thought.
Ms. Morris.
Well, I think that the sales tax, I hope that the voters go to the polls and vote to keep it in place. I really do. The sales tax, exempt is food, exempt is clothing. So many people, one of the problems in our economy, and again it's a global economy, is our money is evaporating. People order online more and more and more, and we are not recouping the taxes from those purchases. So I am for keeping the taxes in place. I do not believe that they're regressive. I think that they're stable. You can count on them. The state can count on that revenue to fund necessary services. And if the voters go en masse and decide to repeal the sales tax back to 3% in November, whoever is, I hope I'm the person, but we will be scrambling to see how we can replace that revenue, because not to do so will be disastrous. Thank you.
I do believe that if you roll back the sales tax, it requires a constitutional convention. I believe that's true, which means all of you are going to have to vote on this. If the people in the 1st Middlesex District want this, even if you're opposed, how will you vote? Mr. Wright, I'll start with you.
I think that we have to have services, and I'm not sure that every single person that is voting, I think that they're voting out of frustration or fear that they feel like their government's too big or that it's not doing enough for them. And I feel like that's especially true in the 1st Middlesex District because over the past 26 years we haven't had somebody that's been very responsive to believing that government actually can serve the people, can help the people, that that's the primary function. So ultimately, I don't want to see the revenues go down. I'd love to find an alternative way to do to fund our revenue rather than the sales tax or rather than the liquor tax. I think they're both regressive taxes and they hurt the people at the bottom more than everybody else. But when push comes to shove, if our district says push it down to 3%, I would vote to have it go back to 6.25 where it is now.
Mr. Savalaskas.
I would go with my conscience, and as I said earlier, that would be catastrophic. Too much unnecessary pain. I would try to make it clear to the voters of the district before the election that doing so is going to bring about catastrophic change in their school, in their police department, in their fire department. You're going to have to decide, who are you going to lay off? Those jobs that the supporters of that bill claim will come into existence because now people won't go to New Hampshire to shop anymore, just aren't going to materialize, and there are going to be retail jobs. And we all know what retail jobs pay. They're at the bottom of the scale. So I vote my conscience and keep the firefighters and police officers and teachers on. And the voters can vent their anger and vote me out. But it's too catastrophic to cut in half the revenue in one fell swoop. It just doesn't make sense, and I would use my judgment and try to explain to the voters that exactly what's going to happen. Your police force in half, your firefighters in half, whatever the case may be. It's just too expensive, too painful, unnecessary to make it that way.
Ms. Morse.
Well, Marshall McLuhan wrote a book a long time ago called The Medium is the Message. And in that book, and I read it a long time ago, another lifetime ago, but it talked about how the medium, where the message is going out, shapes the message. And unfortunately, our culture encourages sloganism. And it's really easy to say, you know, no new taxes, or this is terrible, we're being taxed to death, and people pick up on that in their frustration. Like my colleagues here, I think that it is a matter of education, and it's really, really important that people understand that these taxes are there for the common good. If we start slashing taxes and nobody wants to pay taxes, we're going to end up regressing to, right now we like to think of ourselves as a, you know, we're not a third world country, we're a first world country. But if we stop, if we don't have a revenue stream to fund our common educational goals and protection and all these things that we do in common, we're going to end up as a third world country.
We skipped over, went from 1 to 3. I think we'll go to question 2 now on the ballot, which is repealing state's Chapter 40B, which is the affordable housing law. How do you feel about that movement and the attempts to repeal it, Mr. Wright?
Well, I get to start 2 in a row. All right. Well, the 40B doesn't serve our community particularly well. And the one example that I constantly use is that Dunstable had a housing project that they were trying to put in place there that would have increased the population by 300 people, almost 10%, and it would have gone through without much municipal support or oversight, and I think that's a travesty. You know, the idea we have to create affordable housing in our communities is a wonderful idea. We have to make it so that new families can come to our district, so that new families can be a part, so that working families can have a place to live in our community. And I don't think by any measure that 40B has been a resounding success, but and because of that, I could support repeal and replacing it. I could, if the first sentence was we'll get rid of 40B and the second sentence was this is what will replace it, I could be in favor of that. But just as it is right now, just replacing it all out, I think that's a horrible idea. And I just don't want to roll the dice to see how our communities are going to build less expensive homes to bring new families there.
Mr. Samalaskis.
40B has had almost 40 years to work. It's failed miserably. It's just been used and abused by developers to bypass local control, and I believe strongly in local control. If 40B was going to work, there'd be some evidence of it. Just widespread, massive dissatisfaction with that law tells you it didn't work. In our district, there are some towns with zero inventory of affordable housing. So has it worked? I don't think so. Other places, different story. And it's not, I think people confuse 40B with low income and affordable. It's affordable housing, not low income housing. And I think there are many misconceptions, but so the voters know where I stand. I will be voting to repeal 40B. It's worse than nothing at all. It's been there 40 years, and it's done nothing but bypass local control.
Ms. Morris.
Well, I happen to believe that Massachusetts needs affordable housing. Housing costs in Massachusetts are among the highest in the country, and it's very, very difficult for people who are retired or living on service income from retail jobs, you know, like bringing groceries at Donald's, to make their rent. And yet we need the services of these people. The reason we have 40B is to shift some of the burden of supplying affordable housing from our inner cities out to the suburban and exurbs, you know, and rural areas. I understand that 40B, there are some provisions in 40B that perhaps have not worked. I signed a petition to put it to the voters for a vote, but whether it is voted in or whether it's supported at the polls or voted out, I think we're going to need legislation that encourages affordable housing in all of our communities. And it's not bringing people in from the outside, but like in the case of Dunstable that has no affordable housing in Dunstable, where do people go when they retire and they're on fixed incomes to live? Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We've reached the end of the questions, except I have one last one for you all. And the question is, given this debate, given this campaign, why should voters vote for you? I'm going to start in reverse alphabetical order. Mr. Samalaskis, you have 2 minutes to tell the voters of the district why they should vote for you.
So I'm going to represent the majority of the voters of the district. I'm going to represent the middle class, working people, working families. Our interests have been neglected way too long. We hear talk of aid for small business, aid for this special interest group, aid for that special interest group. Who's going to represent the middle class? We support all the government programs, the programs for rich businesses, the programs for needy people who are unemployed. It's time for programs such as that Great Appliance Exchange. And to me, it was the best program that the governor enacted. If you're not familiar with it, this past spring, vouchers were available for between $50 and $250 for people to buy energy-efficient appliances. That's the kind of program I want to see the middle class have access to again and again and again, not just a one-shot deal. It was so popular, the computer system crashed in the first 2 minutes it was up. All 26,000 vouchers were gone within 5 minutes. It tells you how popular it was. And it served so many people's purposes and worked at so many levels. Working people got to buy an energy-efficient appliance and save money on energy. Merchants got a pop-in sale, and the environment benefited because we got rid of some old clunker refrigerators and things that chewed up tons and tons of energy. Those are the kinds of things I want to champion when I'm elected. Thank you.
Mr. Reich.
Well, I'm running to bring new energy and leadership to Beacon Hill and use my unique background as a PhD chemist and a green energy business owner to help with the economic recovery, to ensure that it's sustainable, and do everything in my power to help bring jobs back to our community. And I think that we have to focus on energy, we have to focus on the environment, we have to focus on employment, and we have to focus on education as well. So I want you to vote for me because I'm going to help bring clean industry to our community so that we can put people back to work. We're going to get our municipal government and our businesses the loans that they need to be able to put clean energy products around, from the geothermal wells to solar PV cells, to even helping with wind projects where they make sense. We're going to do that to reduce our energy costs, to reduce our environmental footprint, while at the same time that we're going to be putting people back to work right away. And if we can do all of that, we'll have money left over to make sure new revenue streams coming in to help with our education system. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to bring our class sizes down, we're going to reverse the trend, we're going to try to put music programs back and art programs back so that students get a well-rounded education so that they can learn to love learning. Until we've done that, we're not going to have students that are ready and able for the jobs of the 21st century, where you have to have critical thinking and problem-solving skills. You know, we need more than just memorizing or filling out worksheets. We need to be building that fundamental piece of education where our students are learning to be innovative, creative thinkers. And you can't get that in a 42-person class, I know, because I've taught them. So I'm asking you to please vote for me and to please check out my website, www.rankforrep. See my other issues, see the myriad of endorsements that we've had, the people that believe in us, and I'd ask that you please vote for me. And I'd like to thank the LoSun for having hosted this.
You're more than welcome. Ms. Morris, the last word.
Oh, great, the last word. Well, I want you to vote for me, Jane Morris. I am the only candidate with State House experience. And when you elect me, you're electing a full-time representative representing your interests in Boston. I believe that you deserve no less than that. I will go to work for you. I want to build the local economy from the bottom up. I want to empower local people to become small business owners and participants in growing a new community. I think that our current global economy has it's like a slash and burn. We've had a export and import mentality that is making diversity an endangered species. We want jobs, we want vocations for our young people to grow into and to be challenging. And I believe that rather than inviting slash and burn technology in, we could bring it up from recognize it where it is now, encourage it, and become self-sufficient. I also believe in transparency of government, and when I'm elected, I will be creating roundtable citizens groups to act in an advisory capacity. These would be open and free to all who would like to participate and participate in their government. So next Tuesday, when you go to the polls, I hope you will vote for me. You can check me out on the web. I'm at www.votemorris.org, and Morris is spelled with 2 S's. Thank you.
Candidates, thank you very much. Once again, Jane Morris of Groton, Jesse Reich of Ayer, and Tony Savalauskas of Pepperell, running for the 1st Middlesex District House of Representatives seat. That is the seat that is open on Tuesday, September 14th in the primary. The winner of this race will face the Republican in the general election on November 2nd. If you're watching us live, we'll be back at 2 p.m. today with a debate for the candidates in the Republican primary in this race. If you are living in Groton, Dunstable, and watching us, you're also invited to a debate tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Neshoba Valley Technical High School in the 1st Middlesex Senate District between Chris Doherty and Eileen Donahue. Once again, thank you, candidates. Good luck on Election Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.